Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Practice. My name is Gen Drummond, and I am a proud Jane ambassador and founder of Hummingbird Clinical Consulting. And I am just so glad to see everybody here today. Our conversation today is called Growing Your Practice with Purpose. And it's all about something that we need, especially in healthcare, which is reconnecting with our why. So, what keeps you showing up for your patients, your team, and your business when things feel uncertain or even overwhelming? Over the next hour, we'll explore how returning to your purpose can strengthen not just your practice, but also you as a practitioner. Now, before we dive in, I'd love to hear where everybody is joining us from. You can feel free to add your city and practice name or discipline in the chat, and we will monitor that as we go. Love to hear where everybody's from. I'm joining from Charleston, South Carolina. And how about you, Roxanne?
I am joining from the Toronto area in Ontario, Canada.
Awesome. So glad to have everybody here. Well, I'm thrilled to be joined today by someone who really embodies purpose-driven leadership, and this is my dear friend and fellow Jane ambassador, Roxanne Francis. Roxanne is a psychotherapist, speaker, and leadership consultant who supports organizations and practitioners in creating values-aligned workplaces. After navigating burnout in her career, Roxanne rebuilt her practice from the ground up, centering it around compassion, purpose, and people. Today, she's sharing how reconnecting with her core values helped her build a thriving, sustainable business and how you can do the same. Roxanne, welcome. I am so honored to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jen. It is my delight to be here supporting you and your community. This topic is one that is near and dear to my heart. Just talking about purpose. I have some slides that I want to share with you. You and your community, you'll hear my voice. We'll see if the internet, internet gods smile upon us today. So I wanted to share a little bit about what it means to grow your practice with purpose. You okay if I just dive right in? All right, perfect. So, Jen was talking, you were talking earlier about, what it means to grow your practice with purpose. And I want to talk today about how sometimes little things knock us off of our line of purpose, or we think that we lose purpose because of these things. And I want us to sort of reframe how we think of purpose as we do this work. Let me just make sure that I can click through my slides. Okay, oh, that's me. All right, so today we're going to go through what purpose actually means. We're going to talk about how we can embrace the mess of our lives, the importance of or what I call the dichotomy of doing this work, and the fallacy of all or nothing thinking, And then we will just wrap it all up by talking about how to trust your inner compass, right? All right. So I have a friend who is a coach. She actually calls herself the purpose coach. And she says quite often, this is actually her tagline, she says, purpose is not a destination, it's a lifestyle. And what that means is that a lot of people think that their purpose is in a title. When I become the VP of this, or when I start my practice, I will have achieved my purpose. But purpose is not a place that you arrive at. It's not a place that you get to. It's actually an internal posture that you live from, right? Purpose isn't your job. It isn't a goal in life. It isn't, having children. It isn't getting married. It isn't when you become financially free. purpose is actually the thing inside of you that drives you. It is a thing that keeps you going when times get hard. It is a thing that keeps you going when the straight and narrow goes left, right? It is. I actually like to think of purpose when I look at. I don't know how many people here are on LinkedIn, but back in the day, I've been on LinkedIn for a while, and back in the day when I was on LinkedIn, people would you would see people's names and you would see their title. They would be the director of this thing or the vice chair of that thing. But nowadays, when people are on LinkedIn, you will see that someone, instead of saying, um, I don't know, VP of finance, now they will say um, a passionate leader in finance, right? Someone will say, instead of saying they are the lead of HR in their company, they will say that they are um, a champion of people, right? And I like to think of those as less of titles and more of the purpose, the thing that drives you, the thing that you are excellent at, the thing that lives inside of you even in your sleep, right? Not this title that we bestow upon people. Not, it's not when you cross the stage at school and you receive your graduate degree or you receive your PhD. That is not where your purpose lives. Your purpose lives inside of you, even when all of that is stripped away. Even when all of that is stripped away, I am still a light that shines for people. I am still helping people finding the way. I'm still, if I had no practice tomorrow, I would still embody all of that. So I want people to think of those things when we think of what it actually means to live a purpose-filled life. Okay, so the next thing I want for us to do is to embrace the mess. How many of us have a laundry basket somewhere at home with clothes in it? I know I do. Either clothes that need to get into the washer or clean clothes that need to be folded. There's always a basket in my home. And I have embraced the mess. And what I mean by that is we have this way of feeling like we have to show up polished. And in some respects, that is a requirement, right? No one is going to trust that you run a great organization if you show up with your hair unbrushed and looking like you just rolled out of bed. No one is going to trust in expertise if you show up in that way. But it does not mean that you have to live a life without it doesn't mean that you have to live a polished life at all times, right? And having mess in your life doesn't make you meaningless. It doesn't make you less competent. You're not incompetent because your life isn't perfect. We all have imperfect lives that we kind of, when you have, okay, maybe this is just me. I'll tell you all about me. When I have friends coming over and the house isn't spotless and I shove things in a cupboard and I close the door, it doesn't mean that I still can't throw a fun dinner party, right? It just means that I have stuff. And so just because you have stuff, it doesn't mean that you've lost your purpose. It doesn't mean that you can't run a thriving practice. It doesn't mean that you are not a competent clinician. It just means that you have stuff and you kind of put it in the cupboard for now. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you are not good at what you do. So many people struggle with showing up or serving their clients with grace and excellence. And they beat themselves up constantly because they don't have everything all figured out. And I just want to say, let's just let go of that, right? Embrace the mess. All right. So the next thing, I want to share a video with you. So I have a friend of mine who was putting together content earlier this week she's doing a big project, and so she was putting together content. And so when she was finished, she was whispering into her phone. She actually put this on her stories, and I said to her, "Can I use that?" And she said yes, because she was talking about showing up in her imperfections. So I'm going to try and play this for you.
Get to record the BTS to the BTS, but I did record it, but it didn't record because now the storage on my phone is full because I've been recording this content, which I struggle to upload because it's asking me about some pixel stuff. I don't know what a pixel is. But here's the BTS to the BTS. When I am recording content, creating content, showing up for an event, speaking, all the things, I often feel like an imposter, particularly in this season. Because as you have may or may not have seen me share, I've been learning to do life a bit differently in these parts as I've been navigating chronic illness. So it means that I'm having to show up some days with pain, but still like, and that makes me feel fake. Also, sometimes I'm tired, and if my makeup's done, my eyes never lie. My eyes will never lie to you if I'm tired, and I still have to. I think there's an element of performing. It's not disingenuous, but it is because while you guys like authenticity, like you do want to see us pulled together and looking and sounding half civilized, and that can leave me feeling a little out of sorts. And my husband was like, "What are you gonna do with that? Like, what are you gonna do with that?" And as I gave it some reflection, here's what I came up with. That is not being fake. What it is me doing what I always do or strive to do.
So she was whispering because her husband was also working from home, but she was talking about showing up and feeling like an imposter, right? Feeling like an imposter because some days she struggles. She lives with chronic illness, and many times she's in pain. And sometimes she just has to put the makeup on and show up, right? And put her best foot forward. But she came to the conclusion that it is not disingenuous. It is her showing up anyway, right? And it doesn't mean that you're an imposter. It means that you have this gift and you're serving your people, but you also have other things, right? So you might have chronic illness. You might have sick children. You might be in the middle of a divorce. You might have financial struggle. You might have legal issues, grief, aging parents, whatever that looks like. It doesn't mean that it has knocked you off of your purpose. It doesn't mean that you are any less of a practitioner, a clinic owner. Maybe you own a group practice. Maybe you are just starting your practice and a loved one has fallen ill and you have to spend less time in your practice. It doesn't mean that you can't start your practice. It doesn't mean that you are bad at what you do because you are now navigating this thing. It means you show up anyway. It means you show up in the way that you can. And the next slide I talk about getting comfortable with the dichotomy of life. I had a conference a couple of weeks ago, and it was one of the things that I talked about because we tend not to talk about this openly, right? We like to think that life has to be one or the other. And I really want for us to sit and hold on to the concept of and. It doesn't have to be either or, right? You can be a really great naturopath and you're still learning about entrepreneurship. You can be a therapist helping people with their healing and you're still needing healing yourself. You can be helping people find the answers of life and you don't have all the answers for yourself, right? My colleagues and I in the mental health space, we laugh all the time about how we're helping people put their lives all together while ours are flaming in the background, right? Sometimes we have to get comfortable with the dichotomy of, taking care of people or building your practice or being a great clinician on one hand, and on the other hand, you are dealing with aging parents. On the other hand, you are navigating chronic illness. On the other hand, you know, maybe you are helping your team members with some things that they're struggling with. It doesn't have to be either or. Quite the contrary. Most people don't do either or. Most people are sitting in the dichotomy of life. The trouble is they're uncomfortable with the dichotomy, and they believe the lie that I can't be good at my craft because of this dichotomy. I can't be excellent at taking care of my clients and patients because I have this awful thing going on, right? Can I tell you that earlier this year, someone threatened to sue me and it almost knocked me off of my rocker. But I had to remind myself that I'm still a great clinician. I got my lawyer on the phone and she took care of it. But it didn't mean that I was bad at what I do. It doesn't mean that I'm not a good speaker. It doesn't mean that I'm not a great therapist. It doesn't mean that I'm not a good leader. This is life. And people, especially in these social media streets, people have this way of pretending that the reality of life is not their reality. And when we look at people who only put the polished foot forward, we believe that because our foot is unpolished, it does not belong. And that there's no truth to that whatsoever, right? And so here's the thing. There's this fallacy of all or nothing thinking. And I love this quote. I came across it a couple months ago. It says, people who say go big or go home seriously underestimate my willingness to go home. It's literally my only goal. Right? And, you know, people throw these phrases around all the time, all or nothing, go big or go home. And the truth is, we don't have to go big or go home. You know, because if you tell me to go big or go home, I might just go home. Right? Because think about the world that we're living in. Think about the things that are on the news these days. Think about the geopolitical climate. Think about the what's the word? The acts of God that are all over this world, right? It's enough to make you want to go under the covers and hide your face for the rest of the year or the rest of the decade. But because we're living in this environment, we have to give ourselves some self-compassion. And we have to get rid of this all or nothing thinking. And we have to stop telling people, go big or go home. Because sometimes we don't have the energy to go big. And that has to be okay. We have to be all right with not going big all the time. And listen, there are moments when you're going to go big, right? But that can't be the place you live from. And so I want to free us from that by saying, don't believe the hype, right? Going big is not your only option. There are alternate ways that you can go. For example, you can go small, right? There are times when you just conserve your energy and you go small. There are times when you go slow, right? Because not everyone can go at the speed of a bullet train. Sometimes our lives come in ebb and flow, right? There are some times when you're going to flow really, really hard and fast, and other times when you're going to ebb. So it's okay to go slow. It's also okay to go part-time. I just saw another Jane ambassador. Gosh, I'm going to forget. No, what's her name? Oh my goodness. Rebecca Hopkins. She's a chiropractor, and she just posted that before she had children, she worked 5 days a week in her practice. And since she's had her little girls, she actually spends her days with them Monday to Friday at home with her family. And she runs her chiropractor practice on the weekends. Saturdays and Sundays is when she works, and she packs her schedule on Saturday and Sunday, and Monday to Friday, she devotes her time to her family, right? You can go part-time. I have another friend of mine who is in mental health, and she had started a practice and it was going really, really well. And the reality of student loans hit her. And so she scaled her practice to part-time, and she found herself a full-time job doing something else because she said, I got to pay these people their student loans, right? So it's okay to go part-time. It's also okay to not wear this mantle by yourself, and you can go with a business partner. It doesn't mean that you can't cut it by yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't have the strength to do this. It just means that sometimes two heads are better than one. Sometimes two bank accounts are stronger than one, right? So it's okay to go with a business partner. It's also okay to go get some rest, right? There is a meme that I saw a few months ago. I wish I could have found the clip of this little girl singing, I'm gonna go lay down, right? She just sang it over and over. I'm gonna go lay down. And it was just so funny to me, right? She sang it like 4 or 5 times. And I thought to myself, I need this in my soul because Roxanne needs to go lay down. Sometimes you need to go get some rest. Sometimes that means you need to go on vacation. Sometimes it means to go ahead and shut your computer down. Sometimes it means you gotta go to bed early, right? You don't always have to go big or go home. I had an entrepreneur say to me just 2 weeks ago, this is someone who is she's not a allied health practitioner. She works in a completely different industry. She's absolutely crushing it in every segment of her industry. She is on, all the shows. She is working internationally. She has a massive team. She's making all of the figures. And we were chatting, and she said to me, well, I was just about to say she was challenging me, but she thought she was challenging me. She said to me, if you want to be really big in your industry, you have to be willing to sacrifice time with your family. You have to be willing to sacrifice your rest. You have to be willing to sacrifice vacation. You have to be willing to. And I said to her, I understand that there are moments or blips of time when that's necessary, but will I need to sacrifice that all the time? And she looked at me straight in the eyes and she said, most of the time. And I said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thanks. I started my practice because I wanted to spend more time with my children, right? The other night I came home from the office and I had some more paperwork that I needed to do. And my plan was to just open up my computer at the kitchen counter and get some work done. And my 10-year-old looked at me and he said, can we make banana chocolate chip muffins? And I looked at him and I looked at my computer and I said, sure, why not? And because he's only going to be 10 one time. Yeah. Right. And we pulled out all the things and he overindulged in the chocolate chips and he smashed the bananas and made a mess, and it didn't matter. Right. Because what mattered was after dinner, he said, can we have those muffins now? And I said, yeah, you can have a bedtime snack. He was so happy. I'm not going to get those moments back. Right. And there are going to be times when I ask him to, I'll ask my partner to go take the boys for a walk because I have an important meeting and I just need quiet in the home. And that's okay. There are going to be small moments of sacrifice. But for me, at least, it can't be all the time. And I don't encourage people to have the go big or go home mentality all the time. It's just not sustainable. We didn't get into these roles to burn ourselves out, because if we do, what's the point, right? So even if you're going to hold on to the go big or go home, just make it little snippets of time. It can't be 24/7. It can't be 365. So think of alternate ways you can go. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say your message is resonating so well. I'm just monitoring the chat here and all the comments. It's so true that there's this idea that we have to be bigger, bigger, more, all these things. But I know personally that when I've invested consistent small steps, it's what has led to the most large, like the big success in my career, in my life. But it was the consistency. It wasn't this sacrificial, like, I need to work 15 hours a day just to make it. I've had long days like that, not that they don't happen. So that's the first thing that I wanted to say. And the second thing, and just monitoring the chat, is, oh my gosh, how liberating to be able to prioritize what matters most to you in your life. Like, that is liberation for people to say, you know what? It is a priority for me to put my kids to bed every night. Non-negotiable. You know, you may have a conference that you're flying to or a speaking engagement, but 90% of the time, that's where you're showing up and you're building a career around your values, around what matters most. So anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off, but oh my God.
No.
You are just hitting every like little soft center in all of our hearts here, because it's so true. It's just so true. Anyways.
No, I welcome it. You know, I think as we think about purpose, I want you to remember why. You know, people talk about your why. Why did you start this work in the first place? Why did you start your practice in the first place if you're a practice owner? You know, why did you get into this work? And I want you to remember that as your purpose. Life is going to come and knock you off your chair every once in a while. You might get a diagnosis. Someone that you love might leave. You know, your bank account might be acting funny. But at the end of the day, you are who you are at your core. And there's a reason that you started this work. And there are people out here who need you as you do this work, particularly how you do this work. I hear so many people say to me, there are so many practitioners who, I don't know, fill in the blank. There's so many naturopaths. There's so many chiropractors. There's so many dietitians, so many RMTs, so many psychotherapists. But there's no one out there who does it the way that you do. And your people are going to find you because you embody purpose in the way that you do. So don't believe the hype around being perfect all the time, always showing up perfect. You know, it's one of the reasons that I love Jane. For those of you who don't use Jane, I'm sure Jen will tell you all about Jane and how you can access their services. But my right-hand person in my practice, she's my operations manager. A couple of weeks ago, she messaged me. She does all the things. She holds down the fort so I can go be great. And she messaged me one Monday night and said, I'm at the hospital. My husband just had a medical episode. And it was a very serious medical episode. And she said, I don't think I can I can work tomorrow. And I said, forget about work, you know, put first things first, right? Let the main thing be the main thing. I said, don't worry about work. We'll figure it out. And there was very little to figure out because we had Jane humming in the background, right? Everyone was able to schedule, reschedule, you know, pay, like all the things. I only had to respond to a couple of emails or make a couple of phone calls. But having a system in place like Jane means that you can still be great even when life throws you a curveball. And thankfully, you know, her partner is fine. You know, but she also has children. And so she had to navigate her family. And I did not want her to worry about dealing with work when things were going left for her. So she took her time. She eventually made it back to work. Oh, and because she was so busy with home, when she came back to work, she got a massive migraine for 2 days because it was almost like she could breathe again. And her body said, now we can safely fall apart. And so she was able to take the time and take care of herself because we had a system like Jane that was supporting us in the background. And so you don't have to sacrifice everything in your life just to keep your practice or your business operating in a wholesome way, right? As we live in a world that tries to tell us how to operate, as we live in a capitalist society that tells us, you know, we should grind all the time, I listen to people talk sometimes, and people almost seem to boast about not getting enough sleep. I only got 4 hours sleep last night. I only got 3 hours. Like, that ain't a trophy. There's no
I don't
trophy for
like
that.
not getting sleep. No.
There isn't a trophy for that. And so, prioritizing yourself and not beating yourself up for living in the messy middle of life, right? Embrace that dichotomy and recognize that that thing about being human is actually what makes you effective as a practitioner. So don't lose that human touch. Don't feel like you have to show up perfect. Don't let it cause you to think that you have imposter syndrome, and don't feel like you have to embrace this fallacy of all or nothing. That's not how I operate. That's not how, if I may, that's not how I want you to operate. Um, like Jen said, it would be great for you to operate in a way that allows you to value what you actually value. And so the last thing that I will say to you, I know I went on a little bit of a rant there, but the last thing I will say to you is to trust your inner compass, because internally you have the answer. Now, if you need a strategist or a coach, that's fine. But if you have to ask yourself, I don't know if I should pull my hours down to part-time or stay working full-time. People often say, I don't know what to do. And I don't believe them. I think that if you have a hand to heart moment and you just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, allow your nervous system to come down, you will find the answer, right? Your inner compass will not steer you wrong. Sometimes we feel like we don't know what to do because what we're concerned about are the consequences, right? And so if you need a coach, then get one. If you need to talk to your partner about the fallout or the consequences, then do that. But believe me, you actually know what to do. Your body knows what to do. Your system knows what to do. Trust it, and then make allowances for, where the chips might fall. But trust yourself, trust your purpose, because you have the answer, right? I think that's all I've got for today. I hope that's okay.
Thank you. That was so, every time we have these discussions, I get like the little goosebumps on my arms, and because what you're expressing is something that we all deal with, even internally, but that we may not even recognize as a barrier, right? Like we're just running through life and just trying to get to the next stop kind of thing, but then we fail to recognize, like, what are we running after? The example you gave about your practice and having the systems in place, I had a similar story where my father, who was our lead physician in our practice, very suddenly passed away. And we had an 8,000 patient roster. We couldn't just not practice, right? But because of the systems that I had in place with Jane, I was able to staff locums. I trained new admin, and a lot of that I did on my phone. And so it gave me the space and the mental wherewithal to say, what's next? Like, I didn't have to live in the intensity of the trauma. And I think that we all deal with trauma. Like it's trauma because it's unannounced, right?
Yes.
And so, yes, to your point, having those systems in place, super important, but also always checking in with that inner compass. My purpose didn't necessarily change, but my path did.
Yes.
And I no longer saw myself seeing patients, but I knew I still wanted to serve a community. So there was shifting in that, but I also had to have the letting go of the expectation to see what else could be in my path, right?
Yeah.
And so I think as humans, we hold on to this, well, I started this journey, so I'm going to end up here. But in reality, life is the journey, right? The path towards whatever is meant for us, and to not get stuck in the mud, because that's where, we see things like anxiety and depression and just a lot of hard things. Not that those things don't still occur, but looking towards purpose. So your message resonates so well. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course.
We got so many great messages. The other thing that I wrote down from your talk was imposter syndrome. And I just wanted to touch on that really quickly. Because I think it's we talk about imposter syndrome, but it's one thing that we don't really recognize that we grow into leadership. So as, maybe a solo provider, or that you've brought on other clinicians or associates, and it's like, oh, I can't do this because I don't know how. Well, none of us know how to do what we do as we set these goals, right? We learn as we go. Like that's the journey. We grow into leadership. So it was just a note that I wrote down because it was a huge lesson that I had to learn, is that I had massive goals and absolutely no roadmap no roadmap to get there. Just like, so I know I want to serve. I know I want to help a lot of people. How am I going to do this? So you learn through experience. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me in that imposter syndrome, is that we don't have all the answers.
We don't. That's okay. And it's okay. And it's okay. A lot of times people, they see people out there who may already be leading. And when when you yourself step into leadership, you think to yourself, how come I don't know what they know? I feel like I don't belong here. I feel like I can't do this. I feel like I'm an imposter. And I like to say, you have to give yourself room to grow, right? You have to give yourself room to grow. And, I don't like the term imposter syndrome, because none of us are imposters. We're not here because we're pretending to be someone else. We're not misrepresenting our credentials or anything like that. We measure ourselves up with the wrong measurement tool. You're not supposed to know what you're doing if something is new, right? You're not an imposter. That discomfort that you're feeling, that's what we're calling imposter syndrome. But what you're experiencing is the newness of it all and not knowing. And it's okay, because you're learning. If you're learning something, you're not supposed to know it already.
Right. It's so true. We have this, as humans, this desire to stay in the comfortable, like what's familiar is what's comfortable. But oftentimes, like that's the comfort is the barrier. And so there's this exponential amount of growth that exists when we like dip our toe on the other edge of fear, because it really is fear. So yeah, that really resonates with me. I always love having you join these conversations because I just walk away feeling so amazing. I want to ask some questions to the audience as well. So we're kind of going to get into our collaborative chat. And before Roxanne leaves us today, I'll also give a couple minutes just if anybody has any questions. But I'll ask one question and I'll type it into the chat as well. But when you think about your purpose, so everybody that's here today, when you think about your purpose, do you feel that it's more about the people that you serve, the change you want to create, or the way you want to feel in your work? So I'll type it in here in the chat so everybody can see the question. Roxanne, you're welcome to answer that question too, if you'd like.
Oh, wow. Can you ask that again?
Yeah. So when you think about your purpose, is it more about the people you serve, the change you want to create, or the way you want to feel in your work?
For me, I think it probably would be about the change I want to create. It's a mix between the first two, because I love serving my people. But I think, and it isn't necessarily about me being the one who makes the change, but more about the result for people. I want people to feel free of the lies that they've believed about whatever it is. I want people to recognize that there's more inside of them than they understand, that they give themselves credit for. I want, I think it's change. whether I'm working with people individually, in teams or organizations. I want for there to be impact. Like, we're not just here to have discussion, because discussion is warm and fuzzy. Like, after the discussion, what's going to happen, right? After the discussion, how is that going to influence how you lead, or how you do your work, or how you perceive yourself?
Yeah, exactly. I resonate with that so much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to move on to our next question, and then I'll let the audience ask you a couple questions if they have it.
Yes.
So if you currently are leading a team or collaborate with others, in your careers, in your fields, what's one value you want your team to feel in their daily work? And if you aren't leading a team, what's one value that you model in your daily work? I'll write this in the chat as well. I know for myself, I write my intentions at the end of the year for the new year, and we do a little exercise for my kids the same, but it's more kid friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And I choose a word for my next year, like a word that I want to embody over my entire year, like something that I want to accomplish, kind of thing. And last year, the word that I chose was community. And I was feeling more isolated in my business, and I wanted to have more impact. And wow, when I became so hyper focused on community, it's like wildfire. And it's such a simple exercise to say, what do I want to embody this year? One word, one value. So yeah, I found that to be very successful. How about you, Roxanne?
I love that. What do I want my team to feel? I want for them to feel supported. And I want for them to feel supported and what's the word for this? Why am I losing my words? There's a word for this, Jen. You got to help me. It's that feeling where you trust someone to get the job done. When you trust someone to get the job done. Like, I want them to feel like they are. Yeah, like I can trust them. I want them to feel like that like I've let them go to do their thing. I want them to feel competent.
Empowered.
That's it. That's it. That was, I knew you were going to help me.
A little charade moment, me and you. Empowerment. Love that. Yeah.
Yes. That's it.
It is it. I mean, it's so true. I mean, I love that, because I think when you're leading from a place of intention, though, and that's different. You're not micromanaging, you're empowering the growth of your team.
Exactly.
Those results will have a ripple effect throughout your team, your community, your patients. I mean, like, that's leadership gold right there.
Yeah.
I love that. Empowered. Yep. Jack here wrote the same thing. I would love to give everybody a couple minutes if they have a question for Roxanne, and then I have one last question for everybody as we wrap up. But if you do have a comment or a question before she leaves us today, please do add that into the chat. I will wait a minute or two for that as they come in. And then we'll have one last question and wrap up for the day. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Well, I'm sure you were talking to everybody else, but I'm glad I was here.
I was saying thank you to you. I was.
Okay, thank you. I thought you were talking to.
I'm waiting for them to add their comments in the chat. So we have one here from Eric, and he says, what are some strategies in cultivating transparency within your team without oversharing business nuances?
So I don't share strategy that I'm still thinking through, and I don't share financial details, goals, like all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I do share vision with the team. I share, and this might be a personal thing. I know for me, I operate from a place of, I find that my transparency and my vulnerability are these are my tools,
Yeah.
right? And so I will share if I am having a rough time, a difficult time, because it might impact how I show up. And so I don't want people to think, oh, why is she so spaced out? If I'm spaced out because my kids are throwing up, then I'm gonna let everybody know that my kids are throwing up.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I heard someone say once, don't share openly something that you wouldn't put on a billboard. And I thought, that's interesting, right?
Mhm.
But in order for my team to feel safe and connected and grounded, that it means that they have to trust me.
Yeah.
And if they need to trust me, then I feel like a little bit of vulnerability is necessary, right?
Mhm.
And if they can see my vulnerability, then they're willing to share their own, right? They will let me know if they're running behind or if they need time off, or instead of feeling like they have to hide the thing. And for us, it just makes it a more powerful team.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
I think you have to leave us.
Yes, I do have to run. I'm so
Thank you
sorry.
so much for being here. We will continue the conversation for a couple more minutes, but thank
Yes.
you, thank you, thank you. Your insight and just wisdom is so valuable to this community. So thank you for today. We're very grateful.
Thank you so much for having me, everyone. Have a wonderful day. And Jen is going to finish up.
Yes.
Take care.
Awesome.
Okay.
Bye, Roxanne.
Bye.
All right, everyone. So I have one more question for everyone today, and I will type this into the chat as well. But I would love for everyone to type one word that describes the kind of impact you want to leave behind. And this can be in your career or in your personal life. So type one word that describes the kind of impact you want to leave behind. I'd love to hear from all of you. Awesome. Well, that's an interesting, creativity, change, community. I love that, Krista. Absolutely. Value, authenticity. Awesome. Amazing. Transformative, love. These are so great, everyone. Awesome. Gratitude. That's great, Liz. Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to leave everyone today with a big thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this awesome community. I created these sessions really because I wanted to build community, bring people together, share knowledge. And it's just such an honor to host these every month. So thank you to everybody on the call. We will also be hosting an end of year session on December 11th. And this is really exciting because I will be facilitating a workflow mapping session for your year end. So this is going to walk us through your client journey from first point of contact all the way through their phases of care and either maintenance care or discharge, and looking for gaps and opportunities to improve your workflows and leverage your technology, Jane app, in your practice so you can start your new year off on the right foot. And as an added bonus, we will be giving away one seat to our Mastering Practice Optimization Excellence Track program valued at $3,500, as well as a free iPad. So anybody that registers will be entered into the draw. You don't want to miss it. I'm so excited for this one. So please join. Again, thank you to everybody that was here today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Bye, everyone.